The ignored message. The Galactic Summit. The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Trade Federation stretched endlessly above Dr. Sarah Chen as she walked toward the speaker's platform. Her footsteps echoed in the vast chamber where representatives from 47 different star systems sat in floating pods, their alien forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes against the starlit backdrop of space. This was humanity's first invitation to address the Federation, and Sarah carried the hopes of 8 billion people on her shoulders. The human delegation had traveled for months to reach this moment. Earth's finest minds had worked for years, preparing the presentation that would secure humanity's place among the galactic community. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she activated the holographic display, showing Earth's achievements in medicine, engineering, and peaceful exploration. She spoke with passion about humanity's desire to contribute to galactic civilization, to share their knowledge and learn from other worlds. The response was not what anyone had expected. A deep, rumbling laugh started from the Krillian section, where massive bear-like creatures with 6 arms sat in their environmental suits. Soon, chittering sounds joined in from the insectoid Vex delegation. Within moments, the entire assembly hall filled with sounds that could only be described as cosmic laughter. Dr. Chen stood frozen at the podium, watching as beings from across the galaxy found humor in humanity's sincere offer of friendship. Chancellor Vorth, a tall reptilian creature with scales that shifted from green to purple, raised one clawed hand for silence. His voice carried the authority of someone who had ruled the Federation for over 2 centuries. Dr. Chen of Earth, he began, his translator giving his words a patronizing tone. We appreciate your enthusiasm. However, the Federation has standards. Your species has only just discovered faster-than-light travel. You fight wars over resources that any civilized world synthesizes easily. Your technology is primitive, your society fractured, and your planet is a single world in an unremarkable star system. Sarah felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger, but she maintained her composure. Chancellor, we may be new to space travel, but humanity has unique qualities. Our adaptability, our innovation, Your what? Interrupted Admiral Kextar of the Zephyrian Empire, his 4 eyes gleaming with amusement. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as master strategists and warriors, their blue-skinned forms enhanced with cybernetic implants that made them nearly perfect soldiers. Your innovation? Child, my people were building star destroyers when your species was still discovering fire. The Krillians were manipulating gravity while you were inventing the wheel. What could you possibly offer us? The laughter resumed, louder this time. Sarah looked around the chamber, seeing the dismissive expressions on dozens of alien faces. Some weren't even paying attention anymore, having turned to private conversations or checking their data tablets. To them, humanity was nothing more than an amusing interruption in their day. Dr. Chen stepped back from the podium, her presentation abandoned. She had expected challenges, perhaps some negotiation, even reasonable objections. She had not expected to be treated like a child at an adult's meeting. The months of preparation, the hopes of her people, the careful diplomatic protocols, all of it seemed meaningless now. Earth's response. 6 months later, Commander Jake Morrison stood in the communications center of the Luna base, staring at the quantum transmitter that would carry his words across the galaxy. Unlike Dr. Chen's scientific background, Jake came from a military family. His grandfather had fought in Earth's last Great War. His father had helped establish the first orbital defense platforms, and Jake himself had spent 20 years preparing for humanity's expansion into space. The message he was about to send had been approved by every major government on Earth. It was simple, direct, and carried the weight of an entire world's resolve. Attention, Galactic Trade Federation and all member species, Jake began, his voice steady and clear. This is Commander Morrison of the Terran Defense Force, speaking on behalf of Earth and all humanity. 6 months ago, you rejected our offer of peaceful cooperation. You dismissed our world as primitive and our people as insignificant. We want you to understand that this message serves as humanity's final diplomatic communication." He paused, knowing that across the galaxy, alien monitors would be recording every word. Some would ignore it, others might laugh as they had before, but some, he hoped, would listen carefully to what came next. "We do not seek conflict, but we will not be ignored or threatened. Any hostile action against human ships, colonies, or citizens will be met with immediate and overwhelming response. We have tried to join your community as friends. If you force us to become enemies, you will discover that humanity is far more dangerous than you imagine. This is Earth's final warning." Transmission ended, sending Jake's words racing through hyperspace toward every inhabited system known to galactic civilization. Within hours, the message would reach the Federation Council chambers, military command centers, and news networks across 47 different worlds. The galaxy's reaction Chancellor Vorth read the message transcript while sipping heated enzyme tea in his private chambers aboard the Federation flagship. His aide, a nervous Quellian with multiple eye stalks, waited silently as the Chancellor's scales shifted to a darker shade of purple, a sign of annoyance. "Commander," Vorth said, "finally prepare a response. Something appropriately dismissive. These humans seem to think that making threats will somehow earn them respect they haven't earned through achievement." Across the galaxy, the reaction was remarkably similar. On the military stronghold of Zephyr Prime, Admiral Kekstar shared the message with his staff officers, all of whom found it highly entertaining. "A final warning?" He laughed, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on the data display. "From a species that has never fought a battle beyond their own star system? Their largest warship carries weapons that couldn't scratch our parade. Vessels. Perhaps they plan to defeat us with strongly worded letters." The Krillian War Council had an even more dismissive response. General Throck, whose massive frame could crush a human with one hand, simply deleted the message without reading it completely. "Primitive species often make loud noises when they feel threatened," he rumbled to his subordinates. "Like the small animals on our home world that puff themselves up to appear larger. It's natural behavior." But it was the galactic news networks that truly showed how little the warning meant to alien civilization. The Holo News Network, broadcasting to billions of viewers across the Federation, turned Earth's warning into a comedy segment. The anchor, a graceful Etherian with translucent skin, could barely control her laughter as she read excerpts. "In other amusing news," she said, her melodic voice carrying across the galaxy, "the primitive species from the world called Earth has issued what they call a final warning to the entire galactic community. These humans, who have only recently learned to leave their own planet, apparently believe they pose a threat to civilizations that have existed for millennia." Next, we'll hear from our military analyst about why this is the funniest news story of the cycle. The comedy spread through social networks, entertainment programs, and casual conversations. Alien children made jokes about scary humans in their school playgrounds. Comedy clubs on a dozen worlds added Earth references to their routines. The warning that humanity had meant as a serious diplomatic communication became a galactic meme, shared and laughed at by billions of beings who couldn't imagine how a single primitive world could possibly threaten their vast, technologically advanced civilization, the hidden truth. What the galaxy didn't know was that while Dr. Chen had been making her presentation and Commander Morrison had been sending his warning, another human had been very busy. General Lisa Rodriguez hadn't attended the diplomatic meetings or appeared in any public communications. For the past 15 years, she had been working in the shadows, overseeing humanity's most classified project. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, in facilities that officially didn't exist, thousands of Earth's brightest minds had been solving problems the galaxy believed were impossible. They had studied every piece of alien technology that had ever fallen into human hands, analyzed every communication intercept, and reverse-engineered principles that other species had taken centuries to develop. But more importantly, they had done something no alien species had ever thought to do. They had looked at warfare from a completely different perspective. While the Zephyrians built bigger guns and stronger armor, Humans had been developing weapons that didn't rely on brute force. While the Krillians focused on overwhelming numbers and physical strength, humans had been creating strategies that turned those advantages into weaknesses. While the Federation races competed to see who could build the most impressive star destroyers, humans had been asking a different question. What if size and visibility weren't advantages at all? General Rodriguez stood in the primary command center, watching status displays that showed the true scope of humanity's preparation. Hidden in asteroid fields, disguised as mining operations, and scattered throughout the outer system, Earth's real military waited. Ships that looked like cargo haulers but carried weapons that could shatter moons. Defense platforms that appeared to be simple communication satellites, but could project shields strong enough to stop antimatter bombardments. Soldiers who had trained not just to fight aliens, but to fight them in ways no alien mind had ever conceived. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's warning because they measured humanity by their own standards. They looked at human ships and saw smaller versions of their own vessels. They looked at human weapons and saw less powerful copies of familiar designs. They looked at human numbers and saw a single world facing an empire of dozens of star systems. What they had failed to understand was that humans didn't fight like aliens. They didn't think like aliens. And most importantly, they didn't give warnings like aliens. When other species issued ultimatums, they were often bluffs, diplomatic posturing designed to gain advantage in negotiations. When humans issued a final warning, it meant they had already decided what they would do if that warning was ignored. The only question was whether their enemies would be smart enough to listen. The point of no return. The answer came 3 weeks after Commander Morrison's transmission, when a Zephyrian patrol fleet encountered the Earth Research Station Endeavour at the edge of the Sol system. The station was studying unusual quantum fluctuations in deep space, part of humanity's ongoing effort to understand the fundamental forces that other species used for faster-than-light travel. Admiral Kekstar's nephew Captain Dexmar commanded the patrol fleet. Young and eager to prove himself worthy of his family's military reputation, he saw the human research station as an opportunity for some harmless fun. The humans had made threats, after all. Perhaps it was time to show them the difference between making threats and being able to carry them out. "Human vessel," Captain Dexmar transmitted, his voice carrying the arrogant confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. "You are operating in space claimed by the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded. Dr. Amanda Walsh, the station commander, responded with confused politeness. "Captain, this is a scientific research station operating in our own star system. We're not in Zephyrian space, and we're conducting peaceful research. There must be some mistake." Captain Dexmar's response was to power up his weapons. "The mistake, human, is thinking your species has any right to operate beyond your own planet. Consider this a lesson in galactic reality." What happened next would be debated by historians for generations to come. Some would say Captain Dexmar genuinely intended only to disable the research station, to make a point about human insignificance, without causing serious harm. Others would argue that he always planned to destroy it completely, to send a message that would end humanity's space exploration before it could truly begin. The result was exactly what General Rodriguez had been preparing for. When the Zephyrian weapons struck the Endeavour, the station's shields failed almost immediately. The hull breached in multiple places, atmosphere rushing out into space. Emergency signals flooded Earth's communication networks as 300 scientists and support staff fought desperately to reach escape pods and emergency shelters. Only 17 people survived. Commander Morrison was awakened in his quarters on Luna Base by the emergency alert. As he read the casualty reports, he felt something cold and terrible settle in his chest. Dr. Sarah Chen, monitoring the situation from Earth's orbital command center, closed her eyes and said a prayer for the dead. General Rodriguez received the news in her command bunker, looked at the displays showing humanity's hidden fleet, and gave a single quiet order. Begin Operation Retribution. Show them what a final warning actually means. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's message. They had dismissed humanity's capabilities and ignored their promise of consequences. They had treated the deaths of 300 human beings as a minor incident, barely worth reporting in their news networks. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute, unwavering determination to make their enemies regret ever threatening their people. The age of galactic laughter was about to end. When Earth strikes back, the revelation Captain Michael Torres had been drifting in the darkness. Between stars for 6 months, his ship powered down to minimal systems, waiting for the signal that he hoped would never come. The ESS Defiance looked like nothing more than another piece of space debris, its hull designed to absorb sensor scans, rather than reflect them. Around him in the vast emptiness, 47 other ships waited in similar silence, each one invisible to the sensors of any known alien technology. When the coded transmission reached them, Torres felt his heart sink even as his training kicked. And the message was simple: retribution authorized. Execute Operation Shockwave. Make them remember. Across the bridge of the Defiance, systems that had been dormant for months suddenly blazed to life. The ship's true nature revealed itself as stealth generators shut down, and weapon systems armed themselves. What had appeared to be a derelict piece of metal transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before: a human warship designed not to impress, but to kill. "All stations, this is Captain Torres," he announced to his crew of 200, each one hand-picked from Earth's military forces. "Operation Shockwave is now active. Our mission is to show the Zephyrian Empire and anyone else watching that humanity's final warning was not a bluff. We have 17 people to avenge and a galaxy to educate. Let's get to work." The Defiance and her sister ships began moving toward their target, the Zephyrian military complex at Kepler 442, where Admiral Kextar maintained his primary fleet. Intelligence reports indicated over 200 warships stationed there, including the massive dreadnought that served as the Admiral's flagship. By any conventional measure, Earth's small fleet was sailing into a battle they couldn't possibly win. But conventional warfare was exactly what the aliens expected, and humans had never been conventional. The technology gap Admiral Kextar was reviewing fleet deployment reports when his sensors detected the approaching human ships. His first reaction was confusion. The readings made no sense. The human vessels appeared to be much smaller than his intelligence reports suggested Earth was capable of building, and their energy signatures were unlike anything in the Zephyrian database. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, 4 cybernetic eyes focusing intently on the display screens. "We're detecting 48 vessels approaching our position. Configuration unknown, but they appear to be human in origin." Kextar's mandibles clicked in what passed for Zephyrian laughter. 48 ships against my entire fleet? Either these humans are incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Prepare the welcome committee. Let's see what these primitives think they can accomplish. What the Admiral didn't understand was that human technology had developed along completely different lines than anything the galaxy had seen. While alien civilizations had focused on building bigger, more powerful weapons, humans had concentrated on making their weapons smarter. While others built stronger armor, humans had developed weapons that ignored armor entirely. While the galaxy's military minds thought in terms of overwhelming force, human strategists had been studying weaknesses that other species didn't even know they had. The first human ship to engage was the ESS Retribution, commanded by Captain Sarah Park. Her vessel was 1/10 the size of the Zephyrian cruiser that moved to intercept her, and her crew numbered only 50 compared to the alien ship's complement of 800. By every logical measure, it should have been a massacre. Instead, it became the first demonstration of humanity's true technological advancement. The Zephyrian captain, confident in his ship's superior firepower and armor, closed to what he considered optimal weapon range and opened fire with his primary batteries. Massive energy beams that could melt through asteroid-grade armor struck the human ship's shields and simply stopped. Not reflected, not absorbed in the traditional sense, but completely neutralized by technology that the aliens had never imagined possible. "Impossible," the Zephyrian captain muttered, staring at his tactical displays. "Nothing that small should have shield generators capable of—" His sentence was cut short as the Retribution returned fire. Instead of the energy weapons or projectile systems the aliens expected, the human ship released something that looked like a simple metal sphere. The Zephyrian captain had approximately 2 seconds to wonder what kind of primitive kinetic weapon the humans thought could penetrate his armor before the sphere reached his ship and demonstrated the power of human innovation. The device wasn't a kinetic weapon at all. It was a quantum disruptor, a weapon that attacked the fundamental forces holding matter together. The Zephyrian cruiser, with its advanced armor and powerful shields, simply ceased to exist in a flash of converted energy that could be seen from 3 star systems away. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as Earth's small fleet engaged the massive Zephyrian armada. Human ships, outnumbered 4-1, began systematically dismantling their enemies using weapons and tactics that defied every principle of galactic warfare. The domino effect news of the battle at Kepler 442 spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every military command center, every government council, and every news network was trying to understand what had happened. The reports seemed impossible. A small human fleet had completely destroyed one of the galaxy's most powerful military installations, suffering no casualties of their own. Admiral Kekstar's final transmission, sent just before his flagship was destroyed, consisted of 5 words that would echo through galactic history. "We underestimated them. Warn everyone." The Krillian homeworld, General Throck stared at the battle recordings with growing discomfort. His species had ruled through physical strength and overwhelming numbers for millennia, but the humans had just demonstrated that neither advantage meant anything against superior technology and strategy. The massive Krillian fleets, with their thousands of heavily armed vessels, suddenly seemed less intimidating and more like attractive targets. "Sir," one of his aides asked nervously, "should we mobilize our forces? The humans have shown hostile intent." General Throck's response surprised everyone in the command center. "No. Send a message to Earth immediately. We wish to discuss terms." Similar conversations were taking place across the galaxy. The Etherians, with their graceful ships and energy-based weapons, ran computer simulations and concluded that their entire fleet would last approximately 6 minutes against human quantum disruptors. The Quellians calculated that their trading empire would collapse if Earth decided to interfere with galactic commerce. Even the powerful Nexus Collective, with their networked consciousness and advanced computing systems, found themselves unable to predict or counter human tactical doctrines. Chancellor Vorth received the reports in his private chambers, his scales shifting through various shades of distress as he read each new analysis. The species he had dismissed as primitive had just demonstrated military technology that was generations ahead of anything the Federation possessed. More disturbing was the realization that if Earth had such advanced weapons, what else might they have been hiding? "Chancellor," his aide said quietly, "the human fleet is moving toward our core systems. They're not responding to communication attempts, and their trajectory suggests they intend to engage our primary defense installations." Vorth felt something he hadn't experienced in 2 centuries of leadership: genuine fear. The humans had issued a final warning, and the galaxy had laughed. Now they were methodically demonstrating why that laughter had been a mistake. The new reality Captain Torres stood on the bridge of the Defiance as his fleet approached the Federation's primary military complex at Proxima Station. The massive installation housed over 500 warships from a dozen different species, representing the combined military might of the galactic community. Intelligence reports suggested that every major Federation power had contributed vessels to defend against Earth's advancing fleet. It was exactly the kind of overwhelming force that would have terrified any conventional enemy. But as Torres had learned over the past week, humans weren't conventional. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving transmission from the station. It's Chancellor Vorth himself." Torres nodded. "Put him through." The main view screen flickered to life, showing the familiar reptilian features of the Federation's leader. But instead of the arrogant confidence Torres had seen in the diplomatic recordings, Vorth's expression showed something that looked remarkably like desperation. "Captain Torres," the Chancellor began, his translator working to convey the careful politeness in his voice. I believe there has been a serious misunderstanding. The Federation wishes to open immediate negotiations with Earth to resolve this conflict peacefully. Torres studied the alien leader for a long moment before responding. Chancellor, 6 months ago, Dr. Chen stood before your council and offered friendship. You laughed at her. 3 weeks ago, Commander Morrison sent you a final warning. You ignored it. Yesterday, 283 human scientists and researchers died because your species thought we were too primitive to matter. Now you want to negotiate? Vorth's
Scales darkened. Captain, the attack on your research station was not authorized by the Federation.
Captain Dexmar acted without orders, and we are prepared to offer substantial reparations. No, Torres interrupted, his voice carrying the cold certainty that had made him one of Earth's most effective military commanders. You're prepared to offer reparations because you've seen what happens when you underestimate us. But the damage is done, Chancellor. You've shown us exactly how much the galaxy values human life, and we've shown you exactly how much that's going to cost. The transmission ended, leaving Vorth staring at a blank screen while around him. The most powerful military force the galaxy had ever assembled waited to face 48 human ships. The message received. The battle that followed became known throughout galactic history as the lesson of Proxima Station, not because it was the longest or most violent engagement ever fought, but because it taught the galaxy's civilizations something they had never had to learn before: that being technologically advanced and being militarily superior were not the same thing. Earth's fleet didn't destroy the Federation armada. Instead, they demonstrated something far more terrifying: complete tactical superiority. Human ships moved through the enemy formation like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will, striking with precision that left specific systems disabled while leaving crew areas untouched. Weapons that should have been impossible to avoid were somehow rendered harmless. Shields that had never failed against any known technology became useless against human quantum disruptors. Within 2 hours, the Federation's massive fleet was dead in space, their ships disabled, but their crews alive. 500 warships from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had been reduced to drifting hulks by fewer than 50 human vessels. Captain Torres opened a channel to the entire galaxy, his transmission being broadcast on every frequency and network known to galactic civilization. People of the galaxy, he began, his voice carrying to billions of listeners across dozens of star systems. This is Captain Michael Torres of the Earth Defense Force. 3 weeks ago, my people issued a final warning. You chose to ignore it. Today, you've seen the consequences of that choice. He paused, looking directly into the camera with eyes that had seen too much combat and too much death. We did not want this war. We came to you in peace, seeking friendship and cooperation. You responded with mockery and violence. You taught us that in your civilization, strength is the only thing that matters. Very well. We are strong. Stronger than you ever imagined possible. Around the galaxy, alien leaders watched with growing horror as Torres continued. But we are not like you. We do not conquer for the sake of conquest or destroy for the sake of destruction. We want only what we have always wanted: to be left alone to live our lives and explore the stars in peace. But if any of you threaten human lives again, if any of you attack our ships or our colonies, if any of you make the mistake of thinking we are too primitive or too weak to defend ourselves, you will discover that what happened here today was just a small sample of humanity's true capabilities. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The species that had laughed at Earth's diplomatic overtures, that had dismissed human warnings as the empty threats of primitives, suddenly found themselves facing a new reality. Humanity wasn't asking for permission to exist among the stars anymore. They were simply stating what would happen to anyone who tried to stop them. Over the following weeks, every major government in the galaxy sent diplomatic missions to Earth, not to offer membership in their organizations or to grant humanity permission to explore space, but to negotiate terms that would ensure their own survival in a universe where humans had proven themselves to be the apex predators. Dr. Sarah Chen, who had stood before the Federation Council 6 months earlier, pleading for acceptance, now found herself in the position of deciding which alien species would be permitted to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. The tables had turned completely, and the galaxy that had once laughed at humanity's ambitions now waited anxiously to learn what those ambitions might cost them. Commander Morrison, whose final warning had been treated as a joke by galactic civilization, became the most feared name in alien military circles. The simple message he had transmitted had become prophecy, and every species in the galaxy now understood that when humans issued warnings, they meant every word. General Rodriguez continued her work in the shadows, overseeing the expansion of humanity's secret military programs. The galaxy had seen only a tiny fraction of Earth's true capabilities, and she intended to keep it that way. Fear was a powerful tool for maintaining peace, and humanity had learned that sometimes the best way to avoid war was to be so terrifyingly good at it that no one dared to start one. The galaxy had ignored Earth's final warning, and they had paid the price. But more importantly, they had learned the lesson that humanity had been trying to teach them from the beginning, that underestimating the species from the small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy was the last mistake anyone would ever make. From that day forward, when humans spoke, the galaxy listened, not because they had to, but because they had learned what happened to those who didn't.